Alright, welcome back to the Webcomics Iceberg. This is Tier 3. Alright, before we begin, we don't have corrections, but an addendum. It's about why I hate Nintendo. It's the fans, okay? That's it. The fans that get soyed up whenever Miyamoto goes, new console using hardware from more than a decade ago that runs like ass and costs 50% more than other hardware on the market, and cream their jeans every time they rehash old games, okay? They've been selling you the same games for decades. Alright, it's the fans. They're cringe. And all I'm saying is, there are at least 4 lolcows that come to mind that are big Nintendo fans, you know? Also, I'm panning a comment from another video that I mentioned my distaste for Nintendo on screen to show you what I mean by their cringeness. Case in point. Anyway, I'm going to try the gameplay footage for this one, just to change it up a little bit. Let me know if you like it, or if you prefer if I went back to that flashier editing style. I don't know. With having said that, welcome back to Webcomics Iceberg. This is Tier 3. Ennui Go. Starting right off the bat with a spicy comic. This one's over on Comic Fury. So I go to the site, and once again, no synopsis. Come on. This story is by Doc Glasgow. Alright, so from TV Tropes, shout out to TV Tropes for having synopses. Quote, Ennui Go is the story of Elizabeth Izzy Pritchard, a video game programmer who was bored with her life and ended up creating the biggest accidental success story in the games industry. Now, with her pockets filled with more money than she knows what to do with, this webcomic details the misadventures of Izzy, her circle of friends with benefits, and other characters as they are all roped into the constant insanity, debauchery, and materialism that Izzy subjects others to. That, and the slow reveal of the messed up circumstances that made Izzy the person she is, and the question of whether or not she'll be able to move past it. Alright, sounds like it could be a fun story. Let's give it a good old 2-chapter try, or first couple strips read through, or whatever, and I'll give you some of my first impressions. And so, it's kind of like a slice of life story about this girl Izzy who made a ton of money making an adult video game. Classic Pokemon but horny version. Anyone who's ever played any adult games knows what I'm talking about. Those are a dime a dozen. Basically, it's just a series of gags about her trying to figure out what to do with her immense wealth. It's kinda goofy. I had a bit of fun with it. I won't mind revisiting it when I give it a proper review. And as I said in the first video in the series, yes, every single one of these is gonna have its own dedicated review video. The art style is kind of nice. It's a bit cartoony and might border on a Tumblr-esque style, but never crosses that line. Jumping ahead to the most recent strip at the time of recording this video, the art improves significantly as it goes along, which I actually quite like the look of the comic now. This is a breath of fresh air after having reviewed the first chunk of Moon over June, which, if you're new here, you might have missed. Link in the card and at the end of the video. Make my suffering worth something. But that's just what I think. As always, what do the reviews say? Top positive review. Ian Burb says a lot, so let's speed him up. I've been a fan of Ennui Go for 5 years now, and I was instantly hooked when I first found it by pure change, trawling the internet for new webcomics to read. I was there when the first collection of books was announced for Kickstarter, and I plan on being here until Doc Glasgow dies of a nuclear pancreatic meltdown or other equally horrendous yet hilarious end. The esoterica that suffuses the series may not be for everyone, but as someone who doesn't much care for everybody, I find it some of the best writing for a serial there is. Volume 1 consists almost entirely of the early form of the Ennui Go comic. That is simple 3-panel strips compared to the full-page installments that come 3 times a week, but the unique spectrum of humor and impeccable comedic timing that remains endemic to the series to this day is on full display from page 1. Volume 1 consists almost entirely of the early form of the Ennui Go comic. That is simple 3-panel strips compared to the full-page installments that now come 3 times a week, but the unique spectrum of humor and impeccable comedic timing that remains endemic to the series to this day is on full display from page 1. Though the art in the first installment may be primitive compared to the heights of the nearly 10 years of constant progress and improvement have delivered in the still ongoing series, it does not distract at all from the excellent plots and jokes that every arc or one-off strip delivers. There's also a fair amount of cartoon adult stuff if you're into that sort of thing, and hey, even that stuff is largely played for laughs. Though I definitely recommend reading the webcomic at its official site in order to see the full scope of what the story has to offer. The book volumes neatly split the arcs and stories to allow better savoring of the comic's evolution. Some people might think that doesn't matter much, but I know there's plenty who appreciate that unique context that the bespoke volumes partition such a large series into. Anyway, this review is becoming a bit of a tangent and I'm not sure how to end it. Smegly for present. Fucking dude swallowed a thesaurus. Jesus. Alright. Top negative review. Yeah, I saw those comments. Allow me to enunciate a bit more. There are no negative reviews. People who reviewed it liked it. I don't know, I had fun with it. Not quite a masterpiece, but honestly, anything's a masterpiece after Moon over June. Seriously, you should go watch that video. Next, Rain. Another one hosted on Comic Fury. By the way, if you use Comic Fury, I just recently put Doomsayer on it, so it might have a bigger reach, so I can get to more people. So, if you don't want to read it on my site, you can read it there. Mature audiences only. I recommend it on my site, though. It's better. No ads. Anyway, Rain is a story by Jocelyn Samara de Dominic. Quite a name. Once again, can't find a synopsis, so from Wikipedia, quote, Rain is a slice-of-life webcomic first published in November 2010 by Jocelyn Samara de Dominic. It follows a teenage trans girl named Rain Flaherty, Flaherty, whatever, as she attends a private Catholic high school and interacts with the community around her. In 2013, Volume 1 of Rain was published in a book format. Ugh. Oh boy, trans girl in a Catholic school. Listen, not being that familiar with the LGBT comics space before starting my infamous webcomics reviews, I wasn't really familiar with the tropes, but the one that is just so boring and bland that I cannot ignore anymore is the religion bad trope. Now, I understand throughout history LGBT people have been persecuted by religious institutions, and yeah, not cool, obviously, but dude, it's 2025. You literally have priests wearing pride flags. Come on, dude. Also, I have yet to see an LGBT story in an Islamic setting, but I guess people just aren't ready to have that conversation yet. Anyway, getting a little spicy there. Let's step aside here. I probably won't like this because I'm not particularly interested in these kinds of stories, although there are occasions where I'm pleasantly surprised, so let's just give it a shot and I'll give first impressions. Yeah, it's not really my thing. Just a slice of life comic about a trans girl trying to fit in. Inoffensive at best. However, this one bit of dialogue kind of bugs me, right here. Taking extra long to get ready is a nice touch. Yeah, that's a bit, well, look. I thought the majority of these people are all about breaking gender stereotypes, but they conform to them when they want to switch genders. The messaging of the whole movement is unclear, and I find that a bit demeaning to women, but that's just my take. Maybe somebody will roast me in the comments. Someone always does. The art is a bit crude, but it's also kind of charming at the same time. It kind of reminds me of Lightbringer by Linkara insofar as the person is clearly not the best at drawing, but there's just so much heart in it, you know? When I read through Lightbringer, though I found it a bit generic and overly wordy, I could tell Linkara really loved his superhero comics, and I feel the same way about Rain here. It's just a case of not for me. Also, it's a bit wordy, but hey, what do I know? This one was a hit for Dominic, so, you know, good for her. I think her, if that's the pronouns that are appropriate. Anyway, let's see what other people have to say. AA says, awesome, but buy it at Lulu instead. This is an awesome, inclusive, and often hilarious story of Rain, a transgender girl making her transition, male to female. It features a wonderfully complex cast of characters representing just about every orientation, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so they like the representation, but apparently this listing is stolen. Top negative review. Yeah, they just say that the Amazon listing is a thief. So if you want to buy the physicals, get them in a place called Lulu. But since people like this, you know, so it's just not a story for me, but it might be for you. Next comic, Sleepless Domain. Holy shit, we have a synopsis. Sleepless Domain is a story by Mary Cagle, also going under the name Cube. Yo, you guys ever see that movie? Good 90s horror. Anyway, from the website itself, what is Sleepless Domain? Sleepless Domain is a comic about an isolated city in the middle of a dangerous world filled with monsters. During the day, the city is perfectly safe. At night, however, the populace lock themselves inside as the city streets fill with monsters. The only ones that can combat these creatures are very special girls with the power to transform into magical girls. Okay, so we got a magical girl story. Why not? Also, someone actually noted this one in the first video in the comment section and said they really liked it. Here's hoping I do too. I don't know. My expectations are always increased whenever somebody says something's good. But let's give it a shot. Alright, so, first impressions. It's actually pretty good. It's about a team of magical girls that fight monsters at night in this magical city. There's a barrier that keeps out the monsters in the daytime, and then they take care of the threats at night. I guess that's why it's called Sleepless Domain.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
The pacing is actually really well done. The first two chapters really give a sense of identity to each of the girls' personalities and show some cool action too. I think the creature designs could have been a smidge more inspired though, but for the art style they fit. The art style is kinda Tumblr-ish, but the one thing I do commend the Tumblr style for is the use of color, and it's no different here. The colors are very pretty. There's also some foreshadowing that the story might take a darker turn at the end of chapter 1, and I'm interested to see where this goes when I revisit it for a review. I like it. I don't love it, at least not yet, but I do like it. Despite not really being big into the magical girl genre. Also, this comic is very anime. I can tell that Cube is a big weeb. Hey, that's okay. I'm something of a weeb myself. Anyway, let's check out the reviews. Top positive review. Messi says, "This was a ton of fun, but also sad. Good stuff. Lovely colors. Have fun reading this. Definitely hoping for more of the comics chapters to be bundled into books. Cannot wait to see what it is for the next Undying, but also for Tessa." Top negative review that doesn't have a spoiler warning. magical girls, but everything goes absolutely sideways when actual permanent and awful things happen. This is another comic I've been reading online for years, and each reveal is so good. It is the type of book I wish I had when I was a teen. I'm looking forward to revisiting this one for a full review. Anyway, guys, should I keep doing the voices for the reviews? Somebody complained about it in the comments. I'm like, I think it's funny, you know? Anyway, next comic, Skadi. Skadi is a tough webcomic to track down. So, the original site it was hosted on is no longer available. I guess the owner of the domain didn't pay their hosting fees. However, thanks to the Internet Archive, I can access it. Please stop your war on the Internet Archive, copyright lawyer scumbags. Seriously, half of my content wouldn't be possible without it. Anyway, Skadi is a story by Katie Rice, published in 2008. Well, since the site's down, I'm not going to be mad about no synopsis, so from the Big Cartoon Wiki, quote, Skadi is a webcomic created by Katie Rice and Luke Comican, currently drawn and written by Rice, that made a debut on Dumb Comics on May 7, 2008. It is about a Nordic barbarian woman questing to eat every meat in the world before her death. Okay, so first impressions. The synopsis is pretty accurate. Skadi is a barbarian in this medieval setting and goes around eating every meat possible, just as the synopsis said. And honestly, I kind of love it. The art style is really, really loose and cartoony and gives me vibes of something I might have watched on Cartoon Network when I was a kid. Skadi is such an asshole to everyone, but not in the intolerable way like characters in the comic like Control-Alt-Delete were. More so in the Always Sunny way, where the comedy comes from them being a dick rather than the author trying to get you to root for them. The comic knows she's an asshole and plays into that. And the art style is so much fun. Everything is so over-exaggerated. I love it. Looking forward to reviewing this one. And since I had to download a full archive to even read it, you'll probably be seeing a review in the next few months. But, as always, let's read the reviews. And can't seem to find a comprehensive index of reviews, but the ones that pop up on Google seem kinda mixed. Some are praising it like I did, some are saying the humor is too lowbrow. I don't know, I had fun with it. Have you guys read this one? What do you think? Monster Pulse. This is a story from Magnolia Porter that ran from 2011 to 2021, which, wow, 10 years, hell of a run. Props. Anyway, the website luckily has a convenient new readers tab with the synopsis. Let's take a look. New to the comic, here's all you need to know. A small town somewhere in the Pacific Northwest is home to strange monsters that are born from the body parts of human beings. The body monsters continue to function as the original part did, even when far apart from the human. So everything is fine and dandy, unless the monster is hurt or killed. These monsters were created by a sinister shadow organization called Shell. Their reason for this are unknown, even to most of their employees. They're not exactly 100% evil, but their experiments and secrecy are more important to them than the lives and safety of the people and monsters. 4 brave kids, along with their monsters, struggle to keep themselves hidden from the public and safe from Shell. Along the way, they vow to help and protect anyone else who has a body monster and to discover why and how the monsters were created. So we got a government conspiracy meets Pokemon plus body horror story. Interesting. I don't know, I'm not really feeling this one. So we got this girl that can't focus in class taught by her mom, and then a body horror sequence where her heart escapes her body and becomes this Pokemon looking thing. Then some G-Men capture the heart creature and shoot her, and then she wakes up and it's revealed that she's been injected with some chemicals, and then there's even more exposition dumping, and I can't remember this girl's name. We're running into that same problem I had with Kill 6 Billion Demons. It's just front-loaded with lore. Let me learn a little bit about the characters first, damn it. Your characterization should take precedence before a lore dump, you know what I mean? The art style is kind of fun though, very manga-inspired, but very cartoony too. Jumping ahead, there is color added, but I think I like the manga style better. I'm willing to give it another shot though, but man, do immediate info dumps turn me off to things. Like, I don't mind if they're in stories on occasion, you know, but that's a bad way to start, in my opinion. But that's just my thoughts. As always, reviews, top positive review. Time to speed this one up. I discovered the work of the cartoonist Magnolia Porter in 2015, with Monster Pulse being my first introduction to her work. Ever since Monster Pulse has been one of my all-time favorite comics. I initially was drawn in by how proudly it wears its clear influence and love of monster pet media such as Digimon, as I have a massive special interest and soft spot for media even as a grown adult, while simultaneously being a piece that feels extremely fresh and unique. The premise, without spoiling anything, concerns a young dinosaur-obsessed student named Bina, Bina? That was her name? Bina? Alright, well, whatever. It's just like, I like it because it reminds me of Pokemon. Whatever. Yeah. Which is probably why I don't like it. Top negative review. Well, seems there's no negative reviews, but Good Reviews says there's a few 3-star ratings. I don't know. I think that it's the Pokemon vibe that's really turning me off to it. Like, I had fun with Gen 1 and 2 back when I was a kid, but yes, I'm that old, but I never liked the anime. Just not for me. Also, you already know how I feel about Nintendo. Anyway, what's next? Nuzlocke Comics. Oh, for fuck's sake. Nuzlocke Comics Original is a website that's gonna give me a million viruses. It's by a guy named Nick Franco and is about a Nuzlocke playthrough of some Pokemon game. There was an archive.org link, but it's broken. I'm fine not being able to read it. Honestly, I cannot express in words how much I do not care about the Pokemon franchise. Like I said a minute ago, had fun with Gen 1 and 2. The games, that is. But after that, you might as well be speaking a foreign language. If you enjoy them, enjoy them. That's fine. It's just not my thing. Also, Nintendo. No shade on this Franco dude at all. Wonder if he's related to James. Let's just move on. Also, if I covered Pokemon stuff on this channel, it might attract kids. And then my channel and my content in general is absolutely not for kids. So, yeah. We're just gonna forget this one and move on. Next. PPG Doujinshi. Guess what? No synopsis. So, from the Snafu Wiki, Snafu being the site the comics hosted on, quote, Powerpuff Girls Doujinshi, also known as Powerpuff Girls D or PPGD, is a manga sequel drawn by Vincent No, commonly known as Bleedman, and is hosted by SnafuComics.com. Until Chapter 7, Bleedman mostly did all the work himself. From Chapter 7, BR helped with the story and Seryuga with colors. But since Chapter 8, Seryuga stopped, probably because of his own projects. So he only worked on one chapter. Why even note it? Anyway. Okay, so we got a Powerpuff Girls fan comic. I liked the original show back in the day, but it was never my favorite. The glue monster freaked me out, though. Anyway, let's give it a shot. Honestly, kind of an interesting take on these characters. So the plot is that the Powerpuff Girls move to a new town and are trying to fit in with their class, and it looks like it's going to do a classic shonen anime style escalation. Oh yeah, and Dexter from Dexter's Lab is in it too. Also, the latest page has Jenny from My Life as a Teenage Robot in it, so I'm guessing Bleedman was doing a Cartoon Network cinematic universe kind of approach, which, now that I say that out loud, sounds like it would be kind of sick, dude. Very anime. I think I like it. I'll keep reading it, but reviews. And there aren't many reviews, but there was a bad Webcomics Wiki link, which I think I'm just going to go ahead and do a whole video on that site in the near future. It's very useful for my content. I didn't find it bad at all, but the entry says, quote, I could say that this comic has always been pretty awful, but crossover comics are nothing particularly new. A typical crossover comic makes a few appearances, then fades away into the ether once the author finds something more productive to do, like contemplating his navel, so deciding that they need to write a comic with original content. But Bleedman is not your typical webcomic hack. No, he takes a bad idea and runs with it. He takes a bad idea and makes it into an epic. It's one thing to make a crossover where the characters get together to fight or screw or meet the Flintstones. It's a whole other can of worms when you try making your crossover into a coherent plot with many overarching elements. Bleedman's biggest mistake is where he takes these characters from the typical monster battle of a week into something that requires actual forethought, like introducing original characters and villains. Oh, and a dramatic and very ham-handed subplot involving Dexter's laboratory characters. Things go downhill when Bleedman introduces his own villains, but the whole comic flies from mediocre to god-awful the moment Bleedman introduces Dexter's dying sister. Actually, Dexter's android remake of his dead sister. Way to go from ham-handed plot to creepy shit on one page, Bleedman. You truly are a master of timing. Well, I wonder when that happens. Well, looks like I'm just going to have to read ahead to see what the author of this wiki page meant. I will be doing a video on that site at some point, so please subscribe for that. Do it. Do it now. Next comic. Las Lindas. Oh, great, a furry comic. Whoa! Okay, furries. I was not familiar with your game. Yet again, can't find a synopsis on the official page, and yet again, I will say, have a damn synopsis. So, TV tropes coming in again. Quote, a long-running furry webcomic drawn by Chalosan, let's go with Chalosan, and written by Soul Cat, and that ID Fox guy. The story is a slice of life that revolves around Maura Linda, who inherits her family's farmland after the death of her mother Diana. At first attempting to manage the farm on her own, she quickly realizes that she will need help and goes out to recruit some more workers. Things are complicated when an old rival shows up and tries to run Maura out of business. The comic was originally hosted on the Catbox, but after its shut down, it can be found on Kimono Cafe, which hosts this comic here. The main comic, as well as some of the side comics and supplemental material, contains occasional NSFW material. Okay, so we got a slice-of-life comic with some absurdly proportioned furries with a bit of spice. See, I'd probably like this if they weren't furries, but that's just me. But hey, let's give it a fair shake. And honestly, kind of like this one. It's just about this goat girl, at least I think that's the animal she's supposed to be, and her struggle maintaining a farm that her family left her. It's really lighthearted with a little spice. I personally would enjoy this more if the characters were human because, well, not a furry, guys. But hey, if you are one, you might enjoy this one, or already know about it. I like a little slice of life every now and again. Put a bit of spice in it, and I'm all over it. But, you know, the furry thing, which I hope you guys aren't interpreting that as some kind of bias I have against furries. It's just not really my thing. But you guys are cool, especially the suspiciously wealthy ones. Patreon link in the description. Anyway, yeah, it's a fun read. Art style is fun, reminiscent of that late 90s, early 2000s anime style, but with a furry coat of paint. DeviantArt would have ate this up back in the day, and jumping ahead, the art improved significantly. One of my favorite things about webcomics. I'd recommend it to any furries watching. Reviews. Well, no Goodreads entries. I guess there wasn't a physical copy, but a DeviantArt review complained about fan service. Dude, it's just not for you then. If you don't like it, read something else. I am so sick of this fan service bad debate. It's just not for you then. That one comic from earlier in the video, Rain, the one about the trans girl, it's just not for me. I'm not going to go off on a tirade like some people do about fan service. But if you enjoy it, read the shit out of it, dude. What do people say about me? Fuck them, dude. Like what you like and never apologize about it. I'm so sick of it. Not to mention, nobody ever brings up how jacked some of the dudes are in media. Like, every single one of those Marvel actors are on roids. You know it, I know it, the whole damn world knows it. But when they're naturally in shape, off the roids, it's just a dad bod. Seriously? Hollywood really ruined women's perception of men. Okay, ran over. I'm going off on a whole disjointed rant right now, but, like, fuck off. Fan service is for people who like it, okay? And if you don't like it, don't fucking read it. And yes, that's why there's so many big titties in Doomsayer, because I like them. Alright, one other review I saw from TV Tropes was referring to Mora, the main character, as a Mary Sue, which, well, I'm not that far into it to confirm nor deny. It just seems like a lighthearted story about a goat girl with big titties running a farm. Next, Grinders. Back to Comic Fury with this one. Grinders, not to be confused with the popular dating app for homosexuals, is a series by an author I can only find credited as, quote, Dark Roast Phoenix. The synopsis is, well, let me just read it. This work is dedicated to all the fanatics who hit the gym before the sun comes up, who sit down and beat out their words on their pages every night, who find a way to make the numbers work for their startup. This is for those who are too dumb to stop, who don't have a plan B, who keep pushing through blood and mud and tears. This is for the grinders. Please note that there are a significant number of other creators, characters, and work that are used and referenced in this comic. Blah, 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 blah. Something else, there's a lot of smut in here, I won't deny. Blah, 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 blah. Bunch of links to, like, fucking scam courses. Okay, sounds like it might be an avant-garde NSFW comic about douchebags. Intriguing. Let's check it out. Oh, and the comic says it's by Lervillas, not Dark Roast Phoenix. I don't know. Comic Pure is a weird formatted website. And yeah, I kind of fucking hate it. Like a lot. I think it's shit. So our main character, Donna Panks, is like a stocks person. I don't know what you call them, broker. They sit in offices and make calls and buy and sell shares in stocks and shit, you know. And this comic feels like it was made by Gary V. The characters are all pieces of shit, and I do not like them. The art style is cartoony, but not too cartoony. I'm not quite a fan. Everyone's always cursing everyone out, and it's just a bunch of stocks people being shitty stocks people. If I wanted that, I'd just watch Wolf of Wall Street again. Also, like, is this the prophecy that foretold of the Gunaside, the Bikini Cafe? It was in legend. Some knew it would come to pass. Or maybe I'm making shit up. It's not for me. But, reviews. Searching for reviews of a comic called Grinders is very difficult, but the comment section of Comic Fury seemed to review it favorably. Me, personally, I kind of hated it. Maybe you watching will like it, and that's cool. We can have a difference of opinion, but I think it's garbage. Next comic. Zoophobia. Oh boy, we gotta talk about Vivzy Pop again. I might have to put a filter on everything so I don't get a copyright claim. Zoophobia is a webcomic by the notorious Vivzy Pop that ran from 2012 to 2016. I can't seem to find a proper synopsis for it, but it looks like a cringe furry comic from the world's greatest writer, Vivzy Poop. Whoops, that was a typo. But that's really funny. I'll leave it in. Interesting excerpt from the fandom wiki here, though. Quote, On August 11, 2023, unexpectedly, the webpage/Tumblr blog went down, but was initially believed to be an outage. This was until October 22, 2023, when it was labeled deleted under archive binge. It was unknown what had caused it at this time, but at first it was rumored to be the doing of a hacker. Then after the resurfacing of a tweet from Viv herself, it can now be believed that the page was deleted in response to toxic fan, along with a Twitter thread of supposed accusations towards Viv for tracing homophobia, amongst other things. Honestly, Vivzy-Pop has got to have one of the most toxic fan bases on the internet. Hopefully one day the John fandom can rival it. Come on guys, be more toxic. Anyway, my expectations are lower than a modern deathcore guitarist tuning, so let's give it a shot. Well, right off the bat, the font sucks ass. Like, listen, make your font legible. No one can read your story if they can't read your fucking story. I don't know, the site it's archived on is formatted atrociously, so I'll have to go find a properly formatted archive for the inevitable review. Apparently some people said there's depictions of animal-human relationships in it, so big yikes on that one. The art is Vivzy-Pop style, a style I personally find unappealing, but others enjoy. It's recognizable, though. It's got, you can look at a Vivzy-Pop and be like, yep, that's a Vivzy-Pop. The main issue I have with it is the font. I can barely read the damn thing. It's not doing it for me. But, reviews. Oh wow, bad webcomics wiki at the top of a Google search. Seems there isn't a physical copy, so no Goodreads, but there's also a TV Tropes review with a positive review, so let's read them both. So from TV Tropes, the positive review. Alright, so Dylan MC says, generally wonderful. Zoophobia is a really drawn. Alright, I'm done with the voices. I'm done with the voices. No more voices. Zoophobia is a beautifully drawn, funny, charming, and simple comic, albeit at first glance. It's because I can't come up with more voices, which is why I'm not doing them anymore. At least at this time. Anyway, back to the review. All of the characters, there are a few, are all varied in both personality and design, and none of them are boring in any way. Not relatable, but they're fun to watch and see interact. The sheer amount of expressiveness in their facial emotions and subtle cues are probably the art's strongest aspect, while not resorting to cheap tricks like cheeky mouth and more anime tropes that get overused. The story is simple but well done. It mostly serves as a vehicle for the characters to do the funny things, and it works. It doesn't need to be especially story heavy, and it's fine that way. All in all, a wonderful comic. Negative review from Bad Webcomics Wiki. In late 2014, I saw an animation on Tumblr to a Kesha music video, and at least the process for the animation. Tumblr was quite into it for a time until it eventually came out, was praised, and then I stopped hearing anything about anything to do with it, because Tumblr is a fickle beast with a poor attention span. I did take notice long enough to see the creator had a webcomic. It was down at the time, and so it quickly passed from my memory without being read. Several months later, Zoophobia turned up on forums in question of its quality, so I figured I'd give it a look to see now that the site was up. I don't have great things to say about it. Downfall. It's hard to pin down what exact point Zoophobia fails, but I'd say somewhere within the third chapter. It's here that our setting is explained somewhat, and it brings up many contradictions in the story's universe, leaving too many questions to be truly immersive. Cameron is a human guidance counselor sent to the Zoo Phoenix Academy with the Safe Haven, a place full of a variety of fanciful character species. However, Cameron has zoophobia and was sent to the Haven unaware of just how many animals there would be running about and can't leave because magic. Okay. Yeah, scene's pretty mixed, just like the rest of Vivzy-Pop's work. Scene's people either love it or hate it. Unfortunately, I'm on the side of not liking her work. I'll have to find a properly formatted archive because I'm sure some of you would like me to review it. Next, Powerup Comics. This one is by a guy going under the alias Shadow Gamer. Very elite, much ponage. Hey, guess what doesn't have a synopsis on its site? That's right. This one too. So, from TV Tropes again, pretty useful site for this series. Maybe one day I'll see reviews of Doomsayer on it. I'd love to read them. But in this case, Powerup Comics synopsis is as follows. Quote, Powerup Comics is two gamers on a couch webcomic detailing the awesome adventures of the Uber PS3 360 gamers Shadow and Chug. Wait, no. Powerup Comics is the half-baked product of two man-child PS3 360 fanboys. The protagonists are a pair of Mary Stu self-inserts who talk big about their gaming prowess, but spend most of the comic getting into inane adventures that are only tangentially at best connected to video games. And this excuse for a plot often gets tossed to the side so the author can soapbox their uninformed opinions on whatever topics happen to have grabbed their interest that week. The artwork consists of, at most, 2 poses for every character, which are then abusively copied and pasted, and then the punchlines are either non-existent or consist of Shadow shooting whoever he happens to disagree with. Okay, seems like we got another Control-Alt-Delete VG Cats Penny Arcade awkward zombie type of comic with a bit of soapbox twist. Yeah, I really do think I gotta do a video on all of these gamer webcomics I want, and I do owe you guys a Control-Alt-Delete Part 2 video too, though, because the original one got to the likes threshold. God damn it. Anyway, let's give it a read. Well, First of all, Ninja Gaiden was an Xbox exclusive for a long time, and they're implying that it's on the PS3. Probably the inferior Sigma port. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Let's read a few more. This one is entirely coincidental that I decided to use DOA 6 for the gameplay footage. It's a solid fighting game, dude. The whole system is great. Also, not a lot of volleyball games out there, so DOA Extreme is really the only option. Also, who doesn't love giant tits? Come on. And here's a Nintendo hater. Pretty based in my opinion. Alright, let me read a few more and give a proper first impression. Okay, so I read a few more and oh my god, this is the laziest comic ever. The amount of recycled PNGs of characters and even the exact layout of panels, this is making Dinosaur Comics blush. It's a classic comic about toxic gamers being epic and cool, dude. Now, being a certified Nintendo hater myself, it gets a few brownie points, but this is just lazy. The creator is just spouting his opinions in these comics, so I guess you had to do webcomics before Twitter. It's kind of impressive how lazy it is. Although something about it doesn't make me hate it. There's just something about these gamer comics from back then that I can't put my finger on. Some kind of charm, I think. It's like this was probably super cool back then, but now it's just kind of cringe. I don't know. Anyway, let's see if we can find reviews. No physical release, so no Goodreads reviews, but I found this old forum talking about it, so apparently this was supposed to be a parody of the bad gamer webcomics of the time, and a lot of people, including myself, didn't realize that. Mostly because it's on par with all the other ones at the time and it just kind of blends in. But here's a review. Quote, "If you haven't read the Powerup Comics, spare yourself the pain. If you have, this is your support group. Seriously, this is possibly the worst webcomic ever. It has no punchlines, terrible artwork. Artwork? I just insulted artworks everywhere. And possibly breaks the record for using gay as an insult. And apparently it has over 30 updates. A lot over 30. And anyone find any contestant for the title? Honestly, it was kind of cringe, but kind of fun cringe. I don't know. Moving on. Prequel Adventure. This is one by an author going by the alias Kazarat, and this is vetoed from inclusion as it's not necessarily a webcomic. It's another one of those Homestuck-like choose-your-own-adventure style stories. As I said prior, I will inevitably cover Homestuck at some point, but now I will make another video about these Homestuck-likes, since this is the second one so far, and there will probably be more. Guess it's technically a webcomic, but it's also technically not. I will revisit it in the future, though, for sure. I just want static panels with word balloons in sequential order hosted on the web. Hence, webcomic. But we'll come back to this someday. Next comic. Nerf NOW! I'm hoping this is about Nerf guns. Nerf NOW is a story by Josue Pereira. I hope I'm saying that right. And the synopsis from his site, thank you by the way, reads, quote, about Nerf NOW. In the year 93,203 AD, humanity expanded its grasp to the most of the known universe, blah, 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 blah. It's just a bunch of rambling that has nothing to do with the actual comic, okay? Because I wrote this script ahead of time, and I've read ahead, and it has nothing to do with the actual comic. It's a bit of a word salad, but, you know, I just gotta read it. And I thought it was a sci-fi comic, but it's a cringe gamer comic. I should note that this has been running since 2008 and is still going to this day. I applaud the commitment. So, checking it out, we got another gamer comic. Uninspired gags around video game franchises that don't make sense to people that have never played the games. Also, the archive has only a few instances of the comic actually being called Nerf NOW. The first one I saw was a side comic, and there wasn't a story under that name until 2015. This one's not doing it for me, and yeah, I'm just going to add it to the pile of gamer comics to look at. But let's look at the reviews. And I can't because the only site that seems to have reviews is TV Tropes, and despite creating and verifying an account, I can't seem to access the discussion section. Come on. Personally, wasn't feeling it. Another kind of cringe gamer comic. I'll do a mega review of all the gamer comics eventually, alright? I didn't really like this one. Moving on. The Carpet Merchant of Konstantiniyya. That's a mouthful. Damn, this one got nominated for an Eisner Award. Kinda weird being sandwiched between a shitpost about tales crying about being trolled and a story about scarily drawn nightmare lesbians. Anywho, this one is by Remena Yi, if I'm saying that correctly. From Remena's site itself, quote, an Eisner-nominated graphic novel duology set in the 17th century Istanbul and 18th century England about a carpet merchant's reconciliation with faith, love, home in the aftermath of his death by a vampire. A magic realist, romantic, historical epic with a modern satirical take on gothic fiction and the literary vampire genre. So it's like a slice-of-life story / historical fiction plus vampires, I think? Well, we'll just have to give it a read. Alright, so first few pages, and I'm not particularly hooked. The issue is that it's a bit of a period period piece, and personally, I just kind of have to be in the mood for those. It's just a me thing. At the time of writing this script, I'm not. I could see myself getting into this. I mean, there's vampires. Vampires are cool. But the story didn't grab me right away. The art style is fun, really flat, almost like it's trying to emulate the style of the time. The carpet designs are really pretty and the spreads have cool borders. I just need to be in a different mindset to read this kind of story, not in a I have to look at like 50 more webcomics for the series kind of mindset. Interested to revisit for the actual review. But speaking of reviews, top positive review. Atika Wahid says, I am crying. I am inconsolable. How can you do this to me? You would think an author would know how to use punctuation. Top negative review. Natalia K says, you have to really love comics to enjoy this book. It was a waste of money and time for me. Yeah, those reviews didn't give me that much to go on. Again, I quite like the flatter art style and the carpet designs. I just have to be in the right mindset to read this, you know? Next comic. Twin Dragons. Not to be confused with the Jackie Chan movie of the same name. By the way, do you guys remember Jackie Chan Adventures? Love that show. Anyway, getting derailed here. Twin Dragons is a story by Robin Dassin. It started in 2015 and is still going to this day. As always, I applaud the persistence and commitment. The synopsis from the site. Thank you, by the way. Quote, Twin Dragons is a comic written and drawn by Robin Dassin. It's about the daily lives of the twins Kai and Kaya Romero, born as dragon hybrids in a human world. Another slice-of-life furry comic. Lots of slice-of-life in this tier. I do wonder if Spyro the Yandere intended to break it up by genre. Anyway, let's just give it a shot. And yeah, pretty much what I predicted, except there's a catch to the furry stuff. Instead of being about animal people, the furries are hybrids in this world. Humanoid animals. The main characters are humanoid dragons that just go about their day-to-day. However, they're discriminated against, so there's a bit of an X-Men vibe to this. Not sure if it'll escalate or if we're just heading into a more wholesome direction. Probably the latter. I think it's fine. The art's got a fun style too. Pretty anime, kind of early DeviantArt looking. It's fine. Yeah, fine. Also, jumping ahead, it looks like the style stayed consistent for 10 years. But, reviews. There are none. No, seriously, can't find them. I guess I'll have to do it myself when I revisit it for its own dedicated video. And when I said at the beginning each comic will have its own dedicated review, I did mean it. But these are just my first impressions with a general overview and general feedback. These are not meant to be super in-depth deep dives. We would be here all day if we did that. So we're just going to move on for now. Goblins. I wonder what this one's about. This is a webcomic by Ellipsis Stevens. Hell of a name. This one started in 2005, and I believe it's still ongoing. Again, 20 years. God bless. So, from the site itself, the synopsis is as follows. Quote, what is Goblins? Goblins is an ongoing webcomic that looks at a fantasy game realm from the point of view from the low-level monsters, namely the goblins. The comic has been going on for about 13 years and has evolved over time, so don't be startled by the older artwork. That was posted in 2017. It's more than 13 years at this point. Let's check it out. Well, we start with a wall of text apologizing for bad art in the first bit of it. Dude, no need to do that. Trust me, the first chapter of Doomsayer I made was so bad I ended up redrawing it, and I think I could honestly go back and redraw it again. Don't apologize for humble beginnings, just push forward. So far, off to a bad start. Anyway, it's a goof on the fantasy genre. As a serious fantasy author, I say fantasy is no laughing matter. Nah, I'm kidding. It's just that those stories that poke fun at certain pitfalls and cliches of a certain genre are a dime a dozen these days. It's a bland premise. I'm sure it was kind of fresh in 2005, but now it's kind of, like, dull. Jumping ahead, the art does, indeed, improve significantly, and even adds color. It's just the, haha, fantasy so goofy gag is on par with those gamer comics that were all like, haha, gaming so goofy. Maybe I'm just becoming jaded from going through so many comics and becoming a cynical critic through these reviews. I mean, I hope so. YouTube viewers love that shit. I mean, the bad webcomics wiki does show up on the initial search for the comic. Again, it's another fine one. It's fine. But something about the art makes me feel like the author is British. Hold on. Oh no, Canadian lesbian. Huh. Wait a minute. I'm getting flashbacks. Reviews. Onto the reviews. Wait a minute. It appears that we have some lore around the author. That'll do wonders for my inevitable review. But let's see what the Bad Webcomics Wiki has to say. The first thing that pops out to me is this warning here. I've never seen that before. Okay, what's it say? Quote, the creator of this webcomic is a giant douche, even by internet standards. Their behavior may include, but is not limited to, rampant displays of racism, sexism, homophobia, and or other forms of bigotry and douchebaggery. May spew invective I don't think I've ever seen that word ever. At critics and fans alike, avoid real-life interactions as much as possible. Warning, this webcomic will nauseate many readers. This can be for a whole slew of reasons, including graphic depictions of gore, grossly unappealing depictions of sexual behavior, offensive descriptions of sexual abuse, and so on. In any case, this webcomic, and even the review, is not for the weak of stomach. Warning, the following webcomic is a glacier. We could have waited until the webcomic story progressed a bit, but by the time that happened, they'll be long dead and forgotten, so we'll make do with what we have. You know, that gross out warning should have been on the Moon over June entry, I'm just saying. And I realized upon second inspection, this series is attributed to a Terrell Hunt, not Ellipsis. And doing further research, this author is actually transgender. Okay, my bad. Sorry to dead name the author, but if you're going to look this one up, that'll clear up the confusion. I will only refer to the author by the chosen name for the rest of the segment at the inevitable review. Okay? But the Bad Webcomics Wiki says, quote, alright, Goblins starting out as a dumb but relatively inoffensive send-up of the absurdities of Dungeons & Dragons in a manner similar to Order of the Stick and other comics of that nature. However, Ellipsis decided to turn the comic into a dramatic piece. Since the characters have no personality, the only way Ellipsis felt she could make readers sympathize with them was to put them through the ringers of over-the-top gore and forced edginess. In the parlance of Goblins critics, sad happened. Okay, so it gets edgelordy, which remains to be seen. The first few strips I read for the first impressions seemed fine, just fine. But we'll do further research as to why there are those big warnings on the page when we get to its inevitable dedicated video. For now, we're just going to move on. Wilde Life. Wilde Life is a story by Pascal Lepus, and we have a great synopsis from the site it's hosted on. Wilde Life is a supernatural adventure horror series set in a small town in rural Oklahoma. It focuses on stories about creatures from Native American mythology as witnessed and documented by a journalist from Chicago, Illinois. It launched on September 29, 2014, and is written and illustrated by Pascal Lepus. Perfect. I know exactly what I'm getting into. That's how you write a synopsis. I know the genre, I know the setting, I know what to expect, and I even know when it started and who it's made by. That is how you write a synopsis. Sorry for going off on a rant, but do you know how many of these don't have a goddamn synopsis on their sites? Anyway, let's read the first little bit of it, and I'll give you first impressions. And I actually like this one. The art is fantastic in my opinion. It has a sketchy yet refined feel to it. The story does feel like it's going to be a man buys old house but it's haunted kind of cliche going on, but it might go in a different direction. I'm looking forward to revisiting it. But, as always, what did the review say? Top positive review. Maggie Gordon says, one of my rare 5-star reviews because Wilde Life is one of my favorite comic series. This is a collection of the first 3 chapters of the story, and I have forgotten how deftly plotted and characterized Lepus' work is. Readers are introduced to Oscar, just a guy, obviously fleeing some demons until he ends up in a podunk town in Oklahoma. Right away you notice something off about the town. Kids that turn into dogs, ghosts, witches, there's all sorts of things happening in the background that Oscar starts to slowly clue into. This is a magical place infused with the strangeness and power, and I wanted to see all its secrets unfurled. But first, just bits and pieces. The plot is slow and oh so deliciously slow. Very slice of life tinged with mystery. It's just a delight, and I am super happy to have been able to pick up a copy of the print version. Top negative review. Well, there is a single 2-star rating, but they didn't write a review. This one was actually pretty good. I'll revisit it for a full review sooner than later. Next, we got one I actually covered already. The Borba Zootopia trilogy. This one I actually covered already. Go watch the video after this. But if you want the abridged version, this is a Zootopia fan comic by a Brazilian artist named Borba about Judy Hopps wanting to abort the Fox dude's child. I don't know, I haven't seen the movie. It's honestly a really well done comic, but most people criticize it for Nick and Judy being out of character. However, it was an engaging drama for me, who has not seen the movie. There were also sequels where basically Judy gets JFK'd. Yeah, entertaining read, honestly. Next, 8-Bit Theater. This is a Sprite comic by Brian Clevenger. For those of you too young to remember, there used to be a whole offshoot of webcomics that were dubbed Sprite comics. These were adjacent to those gamer comics. The creators basically just used pre-existing sprites from video games of the 16 and 8-bit era. I might actually do a whole video on Sprite comics at some point. Anyway, let's check out the first few strips. Oh, actually clicking on the site, the last page is fully drawn and the art's pretty damn good. But we gotta go back to the beginning. And this is looking like a Final Fantasy fan comic. Nice change of pace from all the Pokemon ones. I've actually been slowly playing through the Final Fantasy series for the first time, on and off with those Pixel remasters Square put out a while ago. I'm in the middle of 3 right now. 2 actually wasn't that bad, by the way. Anyway, comic. Yeah. I I guess it's fine for a sprite webcomic of its time. Our main characters are the Black Mage and the Fighter from Final Fantasy 1, where the Fighter's a dumbass and the Black Mage makes the punchline. Kind of what I expect from around the time. This was published between 2001 and 2010, so for its time, I can see why it was popular. Not really engaging me, though. Reviews. Top positive review. Vexing Replica says, Final Fantasy, as you've never read it before. This is a funny and amusing webcomic which didn't take itself too seriously, following the exploits of Black Mage, Red Mage, Fighter, and Thief. This band of misfit heroes save the world from chaos. The story and world follows that of the first Final Fantasy, although more personality and flavors are brought to the NPCs and villains of the game. In addition to the NPCs and heroes questing, there are many other side story folks, including White Mage, the actual 4 Warriors of Light, and the King. Sword Chucks out of 10, Hadoken out of 5. Approved by Princess Sarah because Garland is busy knocking people down. Alright. Top negative review. Kaylee says, with a 2-star rating, a lot of people have recommended this comic to me over the last couple of years, so I feel kind of bad saying that I don't much care for it. But, well, I don't. Some of the video games and pop culture reference made me chuckle, and I like the idea of the comic, but in execution it just fell flat. Neither the story nor the characters have any depth, which may have been intentional given the source material, but it was still annoying. And a good bit of the humor seemed over the top and forced to me. Honestly, it just kind of feels like another cringe gamer comic, except with Final Fantasy sprites. Sprite Comics video someday. I don't know, subscribe for that eventually. Next one. Hopefully we can leave gamer comics behind. Stupid short Eevee comics. Oh, for fuck's sake. No. I'm vetoing this. That's enough. I'm not doing any more Pokemon shit. I don't like the franchise. I don't like Nintendo fans. I cannot give this an unbiased review. I just can't, okay? I can't. I'm done. No more Nintendo fan comics. That's it. If you like this one, more power to you. Go read the shit out of it. Send your love to the creators. Support them on Patreon and buy their books or whatever. But it's just not for me, you know? We're going to move past this one, alright? My hatred for Nintendo is unmatched, okay? You can't get on this level. I hate Nintendo more than fucking Yuji Naka. Alright, anyway. Yeah, it's a Pokemon fan comic. You know, check it out if you like Pokemon. I'm done. No more Pokemon. I can't. I just can't look at it objectively. Next, Bittersweet Candy Bowl. We have a character sheet, but no synopsis. Once again, TV tropes coming in clutch. Synopsis, quote, Bittersweet Candy Bowl is a long-running teen dramedy webcomic by Veronica Vera. It follows a group of feline and canine friends through middle and high school, focusing primarily on a pretty white-colored tsundere called Lucy and her ongoing crush rivalry with nice guy Mike. Also featured are love triangles, actually a developing love dodecahedron, that's a long word, among Jerk with a heart of gold Paulo, cheery teen genius Daisy, Cloud Coolander, David, and Abby, Daisy's new boyfriend with the trouble pass. There's also Jessica, a strong-willed cheerleader who has a fancy for Lucy and hates dislikes Tess, Rachel, a cheerful cheerleader, and Jasmine, Polo's new girlfriend. Okay, yet another furry slice of life. Why are there so many, dude? I thought there were a lot of LGBT comics, but damn, furries seem to be dominating this iceberg. Anyway, let's read the first little bit of it. And this is a long one, starting in 2009, and ongoing to this day. Again, I applaud the commitment and persistence as always. Okay, so you got a bit of a reverse harem kind of story with some slice of life elements with a furry coat of paint. Furry weebs will love this shit. Me? I don't know. It's alright, I guess. The main character, Lucy, seems like kind of a bitch, to be honest. Maybe if I wasn't writing the script while on my last bit of energy, I'd think differently about it. But again, fine. This seems to be the word today. Fine. Reviews. Oh boy, Bag Webcomics Wiki pops up first, like right at the top. Okay, it just got bumped up on the list because people love negativity. But for the top positive review, there are no reviews, but the ratings seem to range from 3 to 5 stars on Goodreads, mostly 4 stars, so I guess most people thought it was fine too. Let's see what Bad Webcomics Wiki has to say. Quote, it's hard to pinpoint the downfall of this comic. I think it's different for everyone. It happens when, after reading several hundred pages of Whiny Cats, you realize you are just bored with it. That story is going nowhere and the plot lines will never get resolved. It will just go on and you just won't care anymore. At this point, a lot of the comics fans jump to the conclusion that the comic has lost its edge, but the truth is that it's always been boring. But just like watching a clown get hit with a pie in the face, it's funny the first few times, then it starts getting dull. But only after having to watch it for hours does it become torture. So, yeah, they're saying it's boring. I wonder if my comic is on here. Aw, come on. Come on, guys. I need some more haters. Can't really call yourself a success if there aren't some people that hate you. Anyway, on to the last entry of this tier. Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff. This is part of Homestuck. Again, I will cover it when I inevitably get to a Homestuck video. Yes, I will cover all of it, right? The main thing, all the offshoots, even the fandom. That video is going to be a goddamn film, but I'll get to it when I get to it. I don't know why Spider the Yandere separated this in Problem Sleuth from Homestuck. Honestly, I bet there's going to be another Homestuck entry in the next tier. There's probably going to be a comment going, actually, it's technically not part of Homestuck. It's getting covered in the Homestuck video, okay? I will get to it all right? Just at a later date. Anyway, that's a wrap on tier 3. I was extra toxic in this one. Not gonna lie, being a YouTuber makes you very cynical. But thank you for watching. Hope you liked it. Thank you, Patreon supporters. Read my comic Doomsayer, mature audiences only. Go ahead and leave any corrections in the comments, or any distaste. If you're a big Nintendo fan, go ahead and leave a whole unhinged rant about how, actually, I got Shigeru Miyamoto's dick in my mouth right now. I might have to cut that line. But yeah. Tier 3, Webcomics Iceberg. John, forever. See you next time.